Ninth episode. Time is flying by. We're just doing all the episodes these days. It's crazy. Um, I'm your host, Connor Goopy Canoopy Knutson. It's a lot of sounds in a row. Sorry. But I'm joined by a great gang here. We've got Ethan, we've got
Hey.
Kate,
Hello.
and we've got Darby here. You can see their Twitter handles below their images to follow them on social media, keep up with their beat writing, all that good stuff. They're three of the beat writers here at the Game Haus. As we always mention, we cover each of the 20 Overwatch League teams with a beat writer that's covering all their games, previews for the week. So if you can keep up with your team through these beat writers, is a great tool. So definitely follow these writers if they are writing about a team you follow and love. So as we like to do on the show, we're going to start it off by resetting our watch. Just kind of giving you a recap of what we've been up to, plug our writing, shameless plug style, and maybe just give you some info about the teams we've been covering. So, Darby, I'll leave it up to you to start us off. What have you been up to?
Sure. I was on last week, so I didn't have time to magically become interesting since then. But I'm still in recap jail. I covered the Spark, the Fusion, and the Gladiators last week. So, yeah, I'm also working on a feature or two. Not necessarily about Overwatch, but you'll see later on, won't you?
Yes, exciting. Man, the teaser here. Kate, what have you been up to?
I've also been stuck in recap jail. I've been focusing on Philly, of course, and the Paris Eternal, which I've actually been having a lot of fun writing about because they've kind of gotten a lot better recently, so it's been kind of fun to analyze them for a change. I've also been mourning the Fusion Uni win streak ending.
Man, I was there.
It's okay. They'll come back.
I
And
was there.
now they have something else motivating them. And Leg Day said it best. Revenge will be sweet
very
coming
true.
back, hopefully in the finals. And then also have been working on some behind the scenes kind of stuff, working on a different project called House Queens,
Yes.
which will be airing for the first time next week on the 23rd. So 9 p.m. EST. Make sure you're there to watch. We're
Heck yes.
excited.
And that's going to be on this Twitch channel, correct?
Yes, it will be on
Yes,
this
it will.
Twitch channel. Me, Darby, Mallory, Katie, and Miranda will be hosting the first episode together.
Awesome. Great stuff. And before we get on to Ethan, just so you guys know what recap jail means, this is, it's kind of like Brig Jail. You could think of it as like the same way. It's like we've got these great DPS beat writers. They're very versatile, flexible, but we've got to recap these games, and it's the best thing for the cause and all this stuff. So you could, it's almost a one-to-one comparison. It's great. But we recap each game at the Game Haus. Quick summaries of the game for people that miss. And that's one of the, any beat writer across any sports doing this. So that's what we always mean when we say recap jail. They're doing great stuff. Ethan, what have you been up to, man?
Recap jail mostly for me too. I've been writing about my boys, the Guangzhou Charge, and their lost streak. But I've also been writing about the Dallas Fuel, and they've been doing pretty well. So at least I get, both sides of the coin, getting to write about wins and losses. And I'm also trying to potentially reach out for another interview with the Guangzhou Charge. Hopefully I can try to get a player this time. I'm in talks about that. So hopefully I can get that in the next couple of weeks and get that up for everyone. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Nice, dude. That's killer.
Exciting.
Well, I've been, I'm in top 10 plays jail, I guess. I do that each week. So, always doing recapping top plays of the week, the top 10 usually for each week. And then this week I was also, I'm trying to, in previous seasons, I covered NA contenders a lot more in depth than I have this season. And I really hate that I've been so busy where I haven't been able to truly dedicate time to watch all the games. But in kind of an effort to get back to that coverage, I did a panel with a bunch of coaches around NA contenders, managers, analysts, asking them about where the meta's going, where contenders as a whole is going, just trying to get their thoughts on it, see if different coaches had different opinions, if they liked or didn't like it. There were definitely some different opinions on Baptiste and just the contenders changes as a whole. So that was really cool. And then I'm also the social media manager for Chicken Contendies, and we recently did a charity stream for the raising money for the Lust Garden Foundation, which raises money for and research for pancreatic cancer research, which is what Harblue's father died of earlier this year, who's a member of the team, popular streamer as well. So we raised over $6,000, and it was a really fun night. Had some fun casters. I think Necra and Lemon Kiwi did the casting.
Yeah.
Nice.
We had Fran, Harblue, Emong, all these popular Overwatch League streamers all kind of chipped in their time, and they may have made more money streaming, but they decided to do this for charity instead. So it was really cool. Really kind of neat thing to do, to break up, just the week in, week out of contenders, take a break and do something for a bigger cause was really cool. So, yeah, we've all been busy here at the Game House. We're in the middle of the season. We're kind of hitting our stride. We just wrapped up the second week of Stage 2, had some crazy matches. We're 2 weeks away from the first homestead ever. There's a lot happening in the Overwatch League, as always. Teams are falling off that were doing good in Stage 1. Teams that were not doing so good in Stage 1 are kind of rising up. A lot of crazy stuff happening. We're going to break down the action that's coming up. We're going to preview the matches that are coming up in Stage 2, Week 3. And how we're going to do that is we're going to take it just one day at a time. Just one day at a time, Slow and steady wins the race. And we're each going to take one day of games, break down the action for that day, quarrel and squabble in between, whatever needs to happen. But that's kind of how we're going to do it. So I believe, Kate, you're taking Thursday's games. You kind of want to walk us through those and tell us what we're going to be seeing Thursday.
All right. Okay, so the first game of the night is going to cause me, personally, a lot of pain. It's NYXL versus, again, for the second game of the stage. I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic that things won't be an absolute stomp this time. They looked really, really messy the first game against them, but week 2 kind of gave me a bit more hope. They did really well against the Defiant, and they held their own against London, even though they ended up losing that game. It was really close, and so just from that alone, I'm a bit more hopeful that maybe we can see a classic 3-2 fusion score, but it'll more than likely be NYXL ending up winning that. Just statistics kind of tell me that. But I'm excited for that game. And then we also have the San Francisco Shock will be facing off against the Toronto Defiant. San Fran will more than likely destroy Toronto, just because that's kind of the trajectory that they've been on. They're kind of out for blood, and I can tell they really want that rematch against the Vancouver Titans in the Stage 2 finals, which we all know the Vancouver Titans will be in the finals. Like, that's just kind of a given at this point. I want to say that there's maybe a little bit of hope for Toronto, so maybe it'll be like a 3-1 kind of situation. They started off pretty strong against Washington, but then they ended up getting crushed by both Philly and Dallas, so it's kind of hard to gauge just because Washington, as much as I love them and want them to do well, it's Washington.
Yeah.
The next match of the night will be the Florida Mayhem versus the Gladiators. I can't really talk a lot of smack because their one win is against my team. But I think we all know how that one's gonna go. It's a little bit sad when their contenders academy team is 10 times better than the actual team itself, which props given to the Mayhem Academy for that one against Funi. Yeah, I think Gladiators will look really great that game, but the biggest match of the night and probably my favorite game of the week will be Vancouver versus the Dallas Fuel. I'm actually in the inside a very big diehard Dallas fan, so they've been looking really, really great as of late. I think the addition of Note, the RCK trade with Note, has been beneficial to both teams, and Note already looks like he's been playing with them for as long as the team's been established. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Him and OG have just been
absolutely
working phenomenally together.
Insane tank line.
It's insane, and I really, really, really see OG go up against Thumper. Yeah. Oh, those two wild boys. I'm just let them be free. Just keep the cameras set on them the whole game. Just don't even look at anything else.
Not a tight leash on those two. Just let them run wild. Yeah.
They're going to be absolutely insane, and I can't wait. I want to believe in them. I'm going to be Connor this week from last week when he thought that the Outlaws would do really well. I want to think that Dallas can do it. I think it's going to be close. Hoping we won't see the inconsistent Dallas that I know and love. Mm-hmm. Please let this be the game that I think they can really truly shine and show what I've been following them and loving them for since day one. So those are Thursday's games.
Yeah. I mean, these are some interesting games we have for sure. I think that one you started off with, I think New York is always throughout the rest of the Overwatch League history. I think New York is going to play Philly hard because of what happened in the Season 1 playoffs. I don't think that vendetta will ever go. Honestly, I really don't. Like Season 1 was New York's season. They crushed that season. They were by far the most dominant team, and then along comes Philly. So I think New York will always give their best against Philly. They do not want the world to think for a second that Philly's the better team. That being said, like Philly's pretty unpredictable right now. We talked about this pre-show a little bit. A lot of these teams are pretty unpredictable, but New York's always going to make a statement against Philly. Just bottom line, I think.
I think Neptuno's kidney stone was the power stone that they needed.
Yeah.
Because the minute he lost it, that's when we lost grand finals.
That's it. That's
my
That was the rock in the Thanos glove that just fell off.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
And conversely, whenever Boombox is injured, it is the worst case scenario for Philly because that's the 2 losses in stage 1.
Happy birthday, Boombox! If you're ever watching this, today is his birthday. Boombox
Happy birthday,
Overwatch.
Boombox
Happy birthday!
Overwatch.
Please don't be sick ever again. Thank you. Goodbye.
Prosperity and long health to you, Boombox. Any other thoughts on these games, you guys? What do you guys think?
No, after you.
Okay. I totally think Vancouver Dallas will be the game of the night. I don't think Dallas is going to be the team to take down Vancouver, although it would be fascinating if it was. But I think it should at least be competitive. I think Dallas, the upward trajectory has been insane this stage. So I think now's the time to prove it, just how good it's been.
Yeah, I definitely think Dallas is edging on the edge of the top 5, honestly, probably behind the Gladiators, I think maybe in 4th place. We've got probably top 5 teams all playing on this one night, so that'll be interesting. And of course 2 of them are playing each other, so I think it'll be a decent amount of stomps, but yeah. And I definitely agree with the San Francisco-Toronto thing. I honestly think San Francisco is probably the second top team in the league. That might be a lukewarm opinion, but I do think they are actually above New York right now in terms of how kind of cleanly and aggressively they are playing and just enabling Sinatra to just go off and get a grab every a minute and 20 seconds. So I think that'll be a very interesting match to watch. Just San Francisco. I would assume that they would just kind of take that 4-0, but
yeah, it seems like no one's been able to take San Francisco off of playing their game, whereas teams have been able to take New York off of their tempo that they usually like, their reactionary tempo. It seems like San Francisco is always able to be the aggressor. So I agree. I think they are maybe looking a little bit better than New York right now. And to your point about Vancouver, Dallas, Vancouver's kinks in the armor have been so few and far in between, but they have happened. I mean, Houston last week, the Charge early in the season. There have been teams that have clearly shown Dallas that if you play an unorthodox style of play, you can throw off Vancouver. Dallas,
Chengdu.
Do that, please. Ugh. Anyway, that should be a good match though for sure. Darby, what are we going to be seeing on Friday? We've got some big matches there as well.
All right, so Friday we've got New York versus Atlanta, which yikes, unless Atlanta's had some sort of transformation.
Let's get it.
Atlanta seems to be having kind of an identity crisis. I think I talked about this last time I was on, but it just seems like they don't know who they want to play or how they want to play them. And going up against a team as organized as New York, it's just not going to work. I have heard they're thinking of trying to play Daco this week. I'm not sure that'll save it, but it could help because I'd love to know where Daco is.
Yeah.
I thought he was dead. The way they've been treating it, it's like he died.
Yeah.
They just avoid all the questions. Anyone ever asks on their AMAs, someone asks where's Daco, they just don't respond to the question.
But,
or they answer about Defran.
Avash and Monty have said that everyone in the Overwatch League knows where Daco is. So
yeah,
but we don't.
There's not allowed to say it. Is what I've heard.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Then we've got Philly versus the Outlaws, which should be straightforward, but it's also Philadelphia.
And it's also the Outlaws.
Yeah, it is also the Outlaws, and it's the So, I mean, the Outlaws showed some signs of life against the Titans, so sorry, Connor, for laughing at you last time.
That's okay.
So it could at least be competitive. But I think Philly's got a deep enough hero pool with everyone they've got that they can counter whatever Houston's going to throw at them. So if they go the same route they did with the Titans, where they just sort of break out Linkser and let him do his thing, or they just let people play whatever they're actually good at, I think Philly could probably still weather that. But I think it really just comes down to whether or not the Fusion have their clown noses on that day or not. So, you know. Then we got Valiant versus Justice, which last week I would have called that a clown show, but Valiant's won a game now, and they gave the Gladiators a bit of trouble. And also on the flip side, I don't think the Justice are as dead in the water as they used to be. So we're getting there. We can do it, Justice. I want to believe. That said, Corey cannot possibly carry any harder. Justice, please do something.
He needs to get physical therapy for those back problems from carrying his entire team.
He's been doing so well, and I want to believe in them because I want him to succeed, just because of how much work he's been putting into it. Like, it's insane. And I want to believe they're the new Shanghai for sure. I think everyone's kind of quietly rooting for them if they're not a full fan.
Do you think that it's because of their mixed roster and communication breakdowns that's one of the reasons why they're not doing that well or capitalizing on Corey's like huge plays? Because I can't imagine what other reason there would be when you have Giannis and Arc on your team.
Yeah, I've heard some things, and this is just other opinions of other people who may not know what they're talking about either. But I've heard people say that when teams struggle in fight situations, like when you have a big play and you still struggle to close a fight, that almost stems to like deeper organizational issues that could be coming from staff issues, people just not being on the same page. You should be all locked in as a unit, the entire org kind of in this one shell. And when you're losing those kind of gimme moments, that can be signs of really deep-rooted issues. I know that, Kate has announced her departure from the team. I don't think there's any malicious, anything going on with that, but it still is a big change, a radical change. And so when something like that happens, you can maybe, that's the kind of thing you can maybe see manifested in game, is something like, when Corey carries and they still don't win kind of thing. So maybe that's totally speculative, obviously, but yeah.
I think it was Bren who said one time that 9 out of 10 times if a team's not performing, even though they should be, it's org issues.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, yep.
So yeah, I think that's going to be a valiant win, but I think it's got some power to be an interesting game. Or maybe it'll be a clown show, which is interesting too in its own way.
Washington really did play the rain closely, but then you had Erster popping off to ungodly levels.
That was just straight up bullying.
I just got flashbacks.
That game, huh?
I got flashbacks to Effect against the Shanghai Dragons when everyone predicted the Shanghai Dragons last year, and Effect's just like, no, that's not going to happen. I just got Erster saying, you know what, I'll kill all of them myself. So
I miss
Effect.
Wild.
All right, last game of the night, Spark versus Charge, which I think will be the game of the night with no beat writer bias as the Spark beat writer.
And as Guangzhou's beat writer.
Yeah. But a fun fact, when I was getting ready for this show, today is April 17th, which means as of today, it's been 1 month since the last time the Guangzhou Charge won.
I already wrote about that.
Why do you have to do it like that?
In my recap, I mentioned they are on the longest streak of 4-0 losses in Overwatch League history. Not even Shanghai got 5 in a row handed to them. And I think they are also, therefore, on a map loss streak of 23 maps in a row lost. So yeah, it's we can get into Guangzhou later. It's been strength of schedule, but also they shouldn't have been 4-0'd by Paris. Otherwise, they've played the top 4 teams in the league in those 4 matches, with San Francisco being twice, obviously. But like, it's just rough, and I want them to get their mojo back. I feel like if they don't win a game, if they don't win the Spark game, I could understand it. But if they don't win Atlanta, I think they're done.
Yeah,
I think Atlanta will be their best bet.
I think so too. I think they have a potential to win the Spark game. But Spark also, beat Boston last week, and that was very close and very good.
Very good game.
Spark has another game this week. It's against the Shock, and let's be real, they're not going to beat the Shock, so
no. They're
going in and trying to beat the Charge mostly.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, Guangzhou is probably getting pretty desperate. If I'm on the Charge, I'm desperate. They've had this ridiculously hard schedule, but it kind of mellows out for the rest of the stage.
Yeah.
So they need to prove now that strength of schedule is the only problem.
They will never play the Gladiators, the Titans, or the Shock again this season. So, like,
that's actually really good.
It is, but they might. It was something that I think Monty was saying. Like, they might be almost out of the running for season playoffs, given how bad their map differential is, even with the losses. So they really need to start taking this back. And I've come to the conclusion that stage 3 and 4, that's going to be where they can really shine, but they need to pick up like as many of these last 3 wins that they can against these 2 this week, Atlanta and the Spark, and Houston in week 5.
Yeah, I feel like I say this every week, but it's in a 28 game season. That's all you got. every game matters. If you want to make the playoffs, if you want the top, I think 11 or 12 spots to get into the play-in series or whatever, you have to win these games. And for 6 of these teams on Friday, I'm not counting Atlanta, New York. Sorry. For those other 6 teams, you can almost call these must-wins every week. You can almost call these kinds of games must-wins because of what you just said. When you play San Francisco, Gladiators, New York, Vancouver, later on, it's just tough.
I mean, Valiant had one rough stage, and they are very likely out of the overall playoff contention because of they would, even if they won every game from now on, they'd still have 9 losses. They could get like 19 wins at the most. And when you think of how good some of these other teams are, that's very unlikely.
Yeah. And that is wild to think. That is just unbelievable. A conference, a division, or whatever you call them, champion last season is out probably of the playoffs. That is just very sobering.
Nothing could have prepared me for the end of last
I don't think anyone could have seen it coming, especially in the meta. They have so many good, well-rounded players that work with each other, and that's,
Yeah, the Custa experiment will go down in history as one of the worst coaching moves of probably all time in the Overwatch League. But that's for another...
Is too smart.
That's for another day. I agree that we've got some great matches Friday. But yeah, let's get into Thursday's games. I'm going to talk about these just for a little bit here. So for me, we started off with an interesting first game. We've got Boston and London. Both these teams relatively kind of hitting their stride. London especially. Boston did suffer a loss this stage already, but London is kind of surging right now. Jester's been popping off. Fury has been playing out of his mind. You have Badoshin. You forget how many stacked players are on the London Spitfire because of how they played in stage 1. But they really are playing up to what their roster should, their ceiling should be, which they did this last season too, so we shouldn't be too alarmed. London does this, but that'll definitely be a good game and an important game for stage playoff purposes. I think both of these teams are relatively in a good position for season playoffs, but stage playoffs is very important considering how good the other teams they're competing with are. So great game to start the night. The next one is Shanghai, Florida, which... Shanghai should win. I'm not gonna give Florida the credit and say this should be close. I really think Shanghai is good enough with DM and Gamsu and Geguri playing a lot better. This team is certainly good enough to win this 4-0 convincingly. If I'm playing devil's advocate and trying to talk to my at most one Florida fan in chat, I would say your hope for this week, if you're the one Florida fan out there in chat, I'm here for you. Your one hope is that this team is starting to synergize. They've finally have a language they can all speak in a game. They can all understand one another for the first time in a long time in Florida, right? And in LA, but on the Mayhem roster. Whatever. That's your one hope, basically. That's what I'm trying to say here. Fumbling through this, but I don't think it will be close, though. All that being said, will be an interesting game to watch, though. Great graphics, though. Florida, Anthony, you're great.
We love Anthony.
We
also
do love
say every week, we love Anthony on the show. We've had him on the show. Graphic designer for Florida Mayhem. Go give him a follow. Shout out to Anthony, OG.
I just followed him like 2 days ago, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah,
it's working.
Yes.
Next game is Dallas Seoul. This was one of the first games of the Overwatch League season, and this was coming off the heels of Dallas getting just demolished by San Francisco. 0-4, we were like, what is Dallas? What's going on? And then they beat Seoul 3-1, and it was great. So Dallas has kind of been surging lately. We talked about them being a top 5 team. I would argue that's pretty right on par. They really are playing better. Seoul hasn't been playing particularly good or bad. They're one of those teams where it's a coin flip every week, kind of like Philly and Houston. You just never know, it seems like. So if I had to pick, I'm tending towards Dallas in this because of their consistency. I think, Kate, you made a great point. Note is playing out of his mind. I think that trade has proven to be a good one for Dallas. I think their coaching changes have been good, picking up Damon. So, it'll be that one could go either way though. Seoul will be playing this game from a revenge point of view. If you wanted to weave a narrative in there, I think that will maybe exist. So yeah, definitely be interesting to want to watch. Michelle is always playing good, especially lately. So there's an X factor in there at least for Seoul. And then the last match of the night will be a very fun one to watch because it has the Chengdu Hunters in it, and has the revamped and playing at their peak Gladiators in it. So yeah, it's Glads versus Hunters. Before the season started, and I was personally like this, I talked a big talk for the Gladiators. I think I had them like second in my preseason power rankings or something.
I had them at 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
With my crazy spicy takes.
But I honestly think it's semi-justified. This team looks stacked
they're
heading
amazing.
into the season.
They've
And-
always been unpredictable in a good way. And like with their team comps and stuff like that, like it was really disheartening to see them kind of fumble so much during stage 1, but like they seem like they're kind of coming on back from that. And against the Hunters, who are also ridiculously crazy with their comps, like I just predict a lot of fun. Like I think everyone will walk away satisfied no matter the outcome. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
That is a great point. This is a viewer's game. I mean, you're gonna see possibly Surefour on Bastion. You're gonna see Decay. You're gonna see Roar. All these these people for the Gladiators we knew would come together. Void's been playing out of his mind. All that's gonna be on display. We're gonna see the Yoda Chad, awesome Amang out there, doing his thing. So I think this is definitely going to be a great viewing game. As far as the result goes, I have to tend towards the Gladiators. They've just looked too good, and Chengdu is they're another coin flip team, I guess. I'm going to cop out, I guess, say that. It's just hard to tell if they're adapting to the meta or if they're just always going to play Wrecking Ball and stuff. I don't really know. They look okay on Goats kind of stuff, but just okay. So yeah, definitely an interesting slot of games for the day. What do you guys think about these 4 games? Any highlights for you?
I wanted to draw attention to the Dallas Seoul game because I think there's much more of a narrative than most people are kind of remembering, with the fact that like coming into season 1, both these teams were like the 2 that people were like, these are the top 2 teams. They played that insane first game when I think they had like 6 or 7 rounds on Anubis, and everyone was like, wow, this is insane. And then both fell absolutely flat. And now, coming season 2, both of them are probably playing at the highest level they've ever been playing at. Seoul looks, I would agree that Dallas probably looks better, but Seoul looks definitely as good as I've ever seen them. Maybe around like 7th is probably where I'd place them. And Dallas is just, that note trade just benefited them so much somehow, and it's just working so flawlessly. So I think that this is really going to be, it's probably my match of the day, at least to look into. Gladiators Chengdu is going to be amazing, but this one, just with the history of it and these previous Envious and previous, I think it was Lunatic High, just going at each other again.
Yeah, that matchup will be one that forever in the Overwatch League history, when we're looking back in 2025 and we're looking back on these first few seasons and before Overwatch League, this will always be a historic matchup because of the history of those 2 teams, even long after no one from Envy or no one from Lunatic High is involved, which is already kind of the case.
Yeah.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
Dallas hasn't been Envy in a really long time.
Not very much Envy.
Really long time.
But still, those
You've got Mickey on the bench.
Yeah.
Well, he's not even on the bench. I think he's in Thailand.
Yeah.
Very.
Y'all remember Mickey?
Y'all remember Harry Hook? There was a thing on him just the other day.
Anyway, yeah, old Envy, old Dallas Fuel, but yeah, I totally agree. The history of that one's insane. Any other kind of highlights for Saturday you guys have?
I gotta say London Boston. I think you covered it pretty well. I think it's 2 teams who are really kind of figuring it out, or whatever problems they had stage 1, they've seemed to have worked through them, and I think now they're trying to kind of get that playoff spot down, so they don't really have to worry about it. Both of them are trying to not be that team at the end of the stage who getting into playoffs depends on them winning and then 2 other teams winning or losing.
Yeah.
I think they just want it in, so this game's gonna be pretty good. I think they're pretty evenly matched.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
And you have to think one of those 2 teams would probably be having to edge out the Gladiators, because you're probably going to have New York, San Francisco, Vancouver in stage playoffs. And so then, I mean, it's a toss-up after that kind of thing, So, yeah, well, let's round out the weekend with Sunday's games. Ethan, let's walk us through what we have waiting for us on the last day of games on Sunday.
Yeah, so starting out on Sunday, we have Vancouver versus Boston. I originally was thinking this could be the match where Vancouver might end up losing it, but after that Hangzhou Boston game, it's a little bit more still certain that Vancouver will probably edge out this fight. As everyone has just kind of been saying, Vancouver just has so few flaws, such like roster depth and versatility, and we haven't even seen them like play much besides goats. They've just been so insane on goats that it's really been they've outmatched every other team on there. I think Boston might have a chance if they run some of those unorthodox strats like we were talking about, and Boston has kind of been known to do more stuff like that. So I think Boston, if they catch Vancouver off guard, might be close, but I still definitely think Vancouver would have the clear edge in this matchup. After that, of course, we got the Houston-Shanghai. I think this is actually going to be a lot closer of a match than people think, because Houston is not playing as poorly as I think we expected coming into the stage. It was hard to tell because they didn't play for the first week, but I mean, they came in looking pretty strong when they weren't playing goats against Vancouver, and of course, that's an entire other thing that we've all clearly talked about before. But if we see Houston running goats, I think it'll be probably way much more in the direction of Shanghai kind of winning this, because they play a little bit of goats, but they also definitely go for these more niche strategies, and they have had a high probability of working, especially against Chengdu. They really caught Chengdu off guard in that match. So you've got that. If Houston does play Linkser more often, because he was popping off that first map against Vancouver and got them that map win, if they play Linkser, I think it might be a lot closer of a match than most people would expect. Let's see, Hangzhou versus San Francisco. I'm sorry, Darby. I'm just gonna kind of quickly go through this one because I want to save Darby from any more hurt. San Francisco is just, they mop the floor with their opponents and they don't hold back. They are not like Vancouver and New York does this a lot and Vancouver does this on occasion, but they kind of sometimes take the map 4 off a little bit and try to run more of these kind of unique strategies to see what works, as some call it sandbagging. But San Francisco does not do that. They play all 4 maps as intensely as if they were losing, and it's not going to be very close. It's probably the most one-sided match of the day, in my opinion. I'm sorry again, Darby. And then for the final match, we have Atlanta versus the Guangzhou Charge, which will be interesting because we have 2 teams on the hard decline compared to last stage. And I have no bias whatsoever in saying that I think Guangzhou should win this, but none whatsoever. But yeah. I want Guangzhou to win. No, not me, not my new sons. But I really want Guangzhou to win this. I think they have the potential, but they're also... My fear is that they're so within their own head of doubt and defeat after this really brutal couple of weeks, and actually the last month, as Darby's pointed out. Atlanta is also on their own weird trying to find out what works kind of situation. I really think this is an unpredictable game because we don't know if the Charge are going to have like the momentum to actually come in there and play well. I think if they take an early map, the Charge will win because they'll use that momentum and kind of take it through the rest of the game. And if Atlanta's kind of 2-0 at the half, I don't think the Charge have a chance of coming back. So, yeah. That's my analysis anyway. What's other people got to say about it?
Yeah.
Rain versus Charge is going to be a desperation game for sure.
Yep.
A lot of it's going to be mental.
Both sides, yeah.
Yeah, for both of them. It's just like I said that if the Rain drop to either the Valiant or the Justice, it's going to absolutely destroy them mentally. And then they lost to the Valiant, so here we are.
Yeah.
They beat the Justice, but only barely.
Yeah, that's
if I was a Rain fan, I'd be worried about that match too. Even more than the Valiant match, honestly.
Yeah, you got to get Erster on Tracer. That's really their only hope.
Yeah.
On Icon World. That's your only hope.
Use Kodak more as well, in my opinion. But yeah, I think they put a little bit too much faith in the personalities that they bring on board when they really should be focusing on the talent. Not that Dogman isn't good, not that Baby Bait isn't good, but I personally think that Kodak is a lot better, and I think they could be using him a bit more to their advantage. And then we also have the Dako situation, which people know what's happening, but the rest of us don't. So, wanted posters, like, where is he?
They posted the Hammond new victory pose or whatever it is, like the dramatic chipmunk with the 4
in tomorrow's date.
Yeah, tomorrow's date. So maybe we'll know about Dako tomorrow.
Maybe.
Who knows? Or maybe it's tickets for the homestead. There's a lot of speculation. You could go for
Oh,
it.
is it
They're
bad? I really
bringing
want that
on
more
a,
so than Taco can
Taco can wait.
They
Taco
could
can
be
wait. I
trying to
need
bring
tickets.
on a new tank to replace Pakpo. I think that'd be very unlikely, but considering they have been moving very much towards a Western roster, it wouldn't be Oh my god. Oh.
Hear me out.
I would be happy. I would become a Rain fan if that was the case. I would have to.
If he started, that would be almost an instant jersey buy for me. That would just be, that'd be
I'll just cry over my actual jersey that I bought this year.
It'd be vintage then.
Oops.
The jersey that was never worn on stage, that never saw the light of day from the cave.
It's okay. I see him on the Instagram stories all the time with Poco.
He's the poster child.
Not playing.
Just want to remind us he's alive.
You still can't convince me it's not like just a dummy they have set up at this point.
The robot for sure.
Fraggy isn't
It's
real.
really-
These are all pictures from last year, and they're just slowly releasing them in order to make us think he's still alive.
Fraggy, come back. I miss you.
That's hilarious. Well, yeah, I don't have a lot more in these games. I think we're going to have 2 stomps and 2 toss-up games. I think Vancouver and Shock are going to win those games. It's hard to say otherwise. I think, like you said, I think you described the Outlaws Dragons game perfectly, and I think the Reign Charge game is a mental boom kind of game where it's just who has the mental to get through it kind of thing.
With these teams that are just not like in the top 5, I would say kind of advise don't focus so much on GOATs. I know we've all been saying it, but like especially when you're not playing against one of the best teams in the world at GOATs. GOATs on occasion might be good if you're better at it, but also definitely try to like show more versatility in strategies that the opponent wouldn't expect. Charge runs such a good 3 DPS combo, and they never run it anymore, and I'm very sad.
Yep.
Just go goats.
Just go Goats. One more round, bro. Just one more
One more
round.
round, bro. Just
EDSR, bro.
GR.
one more stage, one more season.
One more year.
one more year.
Okay. Well, in order to have one shred of organization to close this episode out, we're going to do a fun little segment to close out the night called WatchHaus Rapid Fire Predictions. Basically what I'm going to do is we've picked 3 matches that we have selected through a crazy algorithm of truth to determine which 3 matches are going to be the closest, the most unpredictable. Who knows? We've selected these 3 matches. What we're going to do is I'm going to say the match, and then I'm going to count down from 3, and we're each going to say who we think wins. And it's going to be electric. It's going to tear us apart. We're not going to speak after this. It's going to be wild. That's what I'm trying to say. So I hope you're ready for this.
Let's do it.
This thing. Okay, the first match on the rapid fire prediction is the Los Angeles Gladiators against the Chengdu Hunters. 3, 2, 1.
Gladiators.
Hunters.
Really?
Is that a 3-1 for Hunters?
I think so.
Yes.
I thought I was being contrarian.
You
That's
say
funny.
what?
You can't pick against the Yoda Chad.
Yeah.
The Yoda Chad reigns supreme.
Oh, I hate
No.
that.
No. Hate that.
Anyway.
No, the Gladiators will take this. Mark my words. Please, God. Please.
It's probably the rational pick. I'll give you that.
Probably.
They're probably
But
the
you
just I
better
love
team.
count out the Hunters. You can never count out the Hunters.
Yeah.
Jinmu section.
Torb
my
Torb
house.
strats for days. Just Torb strats for days.
So I think if the prophecy is true, if you know the tarot cards have spelled this game out correctly, the vote was 3-1 for the Hunters, which also means the score is going to be 3-1 Hunters.
No, it won't.
You can clip this. You can mark it now. The prophets have spoken. The gods, the stars have aligned. This is what's going to happen.
I hate to ruin this for you. I said the Gladiators.
You said the Gladiators? Why did you just now speaking up?
Darby's got my back.
So it's gonna go to a map 5. That's what we're
It's
doing.
gonna go to
Great.
map 5.
Sorry.
It's gonna go to map 5. Chat, I guess you have the tiebreaker. Just spam the chat with your teams, with either Hunters or Gladiators emotes, and that'll be the tiebreak. We'll come back to it here in a little bit. Ay, Darby, you just sat there while I went on a long, dramatic
ruin it
spiel
for you.
about the stars aligning and just waited. Unbelievable. Anyway, second match on my broken prophetic prediction system here is the Philadelphia Fusion versus the Houston Outlaws. In 3, 2, 1. Outlaws.
Fusion.
Outlaws.
Yeah, it's a
The
3-1
Fusion are
fusion.
going to win this, or else Hayes is going to hear from me personally.
My rationale is if the Fusion actually believe they can win, they'll usually win in the case against the Outlaws. They've taken it to Game 5 so many times, but they've usually won it. So
Man, this is a new Outlaws team, guys. This is we've watched the rebirthing of the decent.
they've got all the
Outlaws.
same players. How is
They're
it
still
new?
playing Rocket.
But they're playing different. They're playing a little different. Arhan was
Yeah,
on the
they're
stage.
not playing Bonnie. That's what's different. They're playing
Yeah.
Rockets on Zen. How has that been working?
They sub in Bonnie on mistake and win that map, and then take him back out, and then they do the same crap with Linkser, except it's intentional.
It's
they,
all
they don't have a
planned.
plan.
Hey,
It's all a plan.
Flame told us he has a plan for everything.
Listen,
Flame's mental
whichever map-
stability is the same stability of the Houston Outlaws. You can bet on them.
Yeah. If
a
Linkser
1-1.
plays, I think he will win the maps he's in. So if they play Linkser more than one map, maybe they win, but they're not gonna. If they take Rockets off of Zen, they might win, but they're not gonna.
we're not gonna.
my
If it goes to
gosh.
map 5, Houston will never win, so they have to 3-1 him, which they won't.
Yep.
Ay. All right. Well, the as I said earlier, the stars have aligned, and it means that the Philadelphia Fusion are going to beat the Houston Outlaws 3-1 unless Darby changes their vote again.
I never changed my vote.
Okay. Potato. All right. And it looks like the Twitch chat predictions are saying that the Gladiators are going to beat the Hunters in a map 5.
right.
So, buckle your seatbelts for that one, folks. Our last match in the rapid fire prediction segment of the show is a clash of two titans.
Yeah.
It's thunder
But not the
lightning.
actual Titans.
It's light and dark. It is the two great forces in the league, the Washington Justice and the Los Angeles Valiant, crashing into each other in pure chaos here.
They'll be crashing.
Yeah.
There will be chaos, yes.
Three. All right. 3, 2, 1. Justice.
Justice.
Justice. I'm sorry, Valerie. I know you're watching.
What did you say, Darby?
believe-
I said Valiant.
Get out of here.
I
Okay,
want
I will.
Overwatch to have a good day,
I want the Justice to win.
and I think they will. I honestly do think they could take it over the Valiant.
They played Chengdu and Atlanta pretty closely, and then they kind of just tripped over their own feet. So
Yeah.
I think if they don't do that, then they can actually really take it against the Valiant. If they just play off of Corey, just please,
Yeah.
let Corey do the work and then
Like-
capitalize on it and don't leave the point.
I'm not a big
they
fan
won't
of
do that.
focusing on one teammate because I experienced that a lot with Philly and a couple of my other teams. But like, Corey is clearly the carry on this team. If they would just focus on going about him, they could maybe win. Maybe 2
A
games
few games.
more. A few more.
Imagine in
games.
2019 a team that's like carrying that has Arc and Giannis on it, and it's not
And they're
them
not
who's
the
the
carry.
carry.
Very true. Yeah, I will say, to talk about those two players, I think they've had more time together now. They clearly brought on Arc for Giannis. So, I mean, they're bringing him on to enable Giannis to play aggressive. Hopefully that's getting better and those wheels are starting to turn a little bit more smoothly and Corey doesn't have to, go full, team right here. So hopefully that happens, but I don't know. Valiant also looked a little better, so I see where you're coming from, Darby. I get it. But I'm taking Washington here. 3-1. 3-1 if the stars have aligned. 3-1 for the Washington Justice will be the score.
I won't be mad. It's what I want.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a great way to end the episode, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Sorry it went off the rails, chat. I hope you're enjoying watching us just flounder up here. But yeah, it's been a great episode of Watch House. As you guys may know in the chat, watching this on YouTube, wherever you're watching this, we do Watch House on Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays are our recap episodes, a little longer, more in-depth takes of what happened the previous week. And our Wednesday shows are previews, like we just watched tonight, where we preview the games coming up, a little bit shorter, a little bit more laid back. We're just joshing around here. And other than that, you can catch all of our stuff on the Game Haus's website. Our YouTube channel has a bunch of other great videos, more on our Twitch stream as well. Stay tuned for House Queens is going to be coming out very soon. Be sure and watch that. And yeah, so there's a lot of as always, a lot of great stuff happening here at the Game House. Any final shout-outs from you guys before we close it out? No? We good to go? All right.
Yep.
I think we're good to
Scoring
go.
Overwatch.
Gladiators, please win.
All right.
Philly, please.
Well,
Guangzhou, please win. Sorry,
Guangzhou,
sorry, Derby.
please win.
thank you all for tuning in with us for these 40 minutes or so. We really appreciate it. It's going to be a great week of games. We've surely got a lot of close ones coming up, a lot of stomps, a lot of meme-worthy games. Be sure and watch those games that we predicted. Make sure the prophecies are true, which they are definitely 100% going to be. So actually, don't even watch those games because we know it's going to happen. So you're good.
Unless Darby changes her vote again, yeah.
Unless Darby changes her vote. Stay tuned to Darby's Twitter, soundcheck, what she sees. The prophet will have to speak at some point. We'll have to wait to see what she says. But all this long closing to say, thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys. Someone will see you on Monday. Rotating cast here at WatchHaus. And we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Have a great night. Peace.